I can't lean forward, eh?
Yeah, is that better for you?
Yeah, it's more comfortable actually.
Okay, can we move the table towards you a bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yeah. Okay.
Hey knotlocks, I'm going to talk to you today about how I let my dreads come in and how I maintain them, and I do very little. For me it was really important to really have the journey and not shape how my hair would look. I wanted to look the way I was designed, whatever, to look. So I needed little interference. So all I truly did was, my hair was about down to my middle back, but it was full of chemical bleaching and frizzy and stuff. So I chopped it to about here, and then I washed it and kept it clean, and I only used residue-free shampoo and with no fragrance. That was really important because fragrance can make it mold. So all I did was use that and no conditioner, and then that in itself kind of stripped away all the residue, and that is what allows you to get the knotting that starts to happen. So for a while you kind of look frizzy, and then you'll get like these tiny little things maybe in the back of your hair that are like hopeful dreads, but it takes a while. When you're letting the freeform come in, especially you know, Caucasian hair, it takes a long time. And for me it was maybe 3 years until you could tell I had dreadlocks, and that's what I was going for. But especially the first year and a half, all I did was look frizzy. But it's okay because that has its own journey that comes with it that's really important, I think, if you're going to go for this style. But then after, you know, a while, they'll start to come together, and you can control how thick they get. So for example, you know, you can always have them looking this thin if you wanted, but in the beginning when your dreads form, they get kind of fat and chunky. It's not until they get longer that they get thin. So in the beginning when your dreads are fat and chunky, some people are like, oh, I can't wait till they look like this. But when they look like this, they're really hard to manage because they're so heavy. They're hard to tie up and decorate, and you always look kind of drained because they're flat other than your halo, right? So enjoy your thick chunky dreads while they last, for sure. And then when you see that they're getting together too much, see, like, look here, you see how awkward that is because there you go, because they got together here but here they're separated. That's because I don't tear them apart, and if you don't tear them apart, that's what happens. I personally don't mind that because they're meant to do that for whatever reason. But if you're an aesthetically, you know, sensitive person, you may not appreciate this sort of thing happening. So what you would do is every time you wash your hair, you kind of single out all your dreads and you give them a bit of a pull. Okay, now see, like when it's here, you could like separate them all the way. It's not the most comfortable situation, but that will keep you from having this helmet thing happening. Now in the beginning you'll do it a lot, and sometimes after a while you'll get too thin and then you'll regret having torn them so much. So what you do in that case is you leave them alone, and over time they will start to see, that's about 1, 2, 3, 4 little dreads that I've allowed to come together. And then that's how you thicken them up over time. And in terms of washing, again, I only ever use residue-free shampoo. That's what I do for the most part. Then maybe quarterly or anytime I feel like they've been at risk of exposure to something gross, I'll put white vinegar and then wrap it in plastic and choke them out for an hour. And then I'll use a rinse of sea salt water and heavy duty on the essential oils. Things like lemongrass, peppermint is great, you know, anything that's really thieves, if that's your thing, because that really gets in there. And baking soda and vinegar is amazing too. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll douse myself in baking soda and then pour vinegar on top, or do a soak in the tub and just let them soak a good 20 minutes. And if you give it a good 20 minutes, as annoying as it is, when you wring it out, that water will be brown and gross. but your dreads will be feeling amazing. And then once they dry, like give them a good wash again with the essential oils. Once they dry, you don't smell the vinegar, but you'll be smelling them all day because they smell so fresh and clean and amazing. And my other tip would be to make tea. So I use thyme. Thyme is great because you don't have to rinse it. If you have things like dandruff, use sage, but you do have to rinse it. Simmer it for about 20 minutes. Make yourself a good tea. Cool it very, very well when it's at room temperature. If it's thyme, just pour it over and walk away, and that will disinfect and clean your dreads really nice and freshen it up, especially in between washes. And with sage, pour it on, let it sit for a bit, and then rinse it off. And those are my big tips.
Okay, so this is the part that doesn't dread.
Yeah, and that's not by choice. That just, for some reason, it doesn't.
What's going on is that guys, knotlocks, and this is my friends' dreadlocks, freeforms that have come a long way over the years. I just thought I'd give a quick shout out in this video and make sure you I want to show people the freeform movement that is happening. You can see the finger locks and the Congos all up in these dreads, wispy tips on the end. These dreads have definitely been through a long journey, and just again goes to show that white people can freeform their locks quite well, just as Bob Marley did. Of course, this is not going to appeal to everybody, but you know, to the real naturalists out there, this is quite appealing. I am quite a fan of these locks and the commitment and the confidence that has stemmed from these locks, definitely. So it's always great having people send me their footage to see how their locks look.
It's crazy, I can see like your life in your dress.
From the top of these locks, you can see mad Congos and matting happening. A lot of very flat locks, some blunt halfway down, some are wispy all the way at the bottom. These dreads will be feeling the weight. They will be feeling the weight because they are so long and so heavy. Usually it ends up in partial separation at the scalp slash because it's weighing your hair down. So I mean, that's always something to consider when growing your locks out for 10+ years, is the weight of it. If you looked at the woman with
10 years
if you looked at the woman with the world's longest dreads,
that's not bad. So by the time I'm 50, my hair could be to my feet.
She had collapsed neck vertebrae because her dreads were so long and so heavy. So
is it heavy?
Very.
Just be careful of it. But you can see how some of the locks are looping around themselves. It would take a lot to rinse all out of these and make sure they're dry before going to bed. I'm actually quite a fan of that big lumpy one right in the middle that's kind of short.
Awesome.
Again, right down to her kneecaps. So I mean, she has no need to cut these if she ever was. I feel that at this point she would have to cut her hair. There's no combing this out. It would take too long and you would lose too much hair in the process. But you can actually comb out locks if you're committed to it. Use some conditioner. It's the only time you should ever put conditioner in your locks. And I was feeling how she was talking about residue-free and fragrance-free shampoos, because it is the truth. It will cause mold if it starts building up in there. So on her head, she must at least have, you know, 50-60 dreads at least. If they were thinner, it easily could have been over 100 or so.
Look at the paint.
Not quite sure what's going on right here in the video. A little bit of discoloration, looks like. Could be a ring, I don't know. And here is the top view. Again, the top not really locked as well as the bottom.
Go for it.
And the weight.
I don't even budge.
I love it.
You know what it felt like? It felt like somebody was going like this to my head.
We're trying to get her to, yeah, do that again. Awesome. One more time.
So it is quite funny. The weight is inevitable. I mean, be careful when your hair is that long, especially when it's wet and you try to shake your head around like that. It will throw you to the ground. I've seen people thrown to the ground when their hair is wet because their dreads are too heavy. But yeah, this was the video. Thanks to Maria for doing this. So you guys can send me some videos as well. I'll set up a Google Drive where you guys can drop your footage if you want to see more videos like this. Slow motion, iPhones work well. Samsung Galaxy X6, all those great phones are good for this. Submit your footage to me. I will feature you on the channel. Go visit my vlogs. I'll see you next time. Peace out. One love. Not Asian salute. Blah, 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 blah. Peace.